But is the UK better off since leaving the EU? I'm going to start with you, Peter Edwards.
No, and I know this show's about opinions, but there are some things that are just facts. The Independent Office for Budget Responsibility said the economy is 4% smaller than it would otherwise have been because of Brexit. And now, the people who supported Brexit, I have no problem with. You know, there was a vote. There was a vote, and Remain has lost. But there seemed to be a split into two tribes. One group of Brexiteers saying Brexit's been a success, everything is going fine, our best days ahead of us. And then there's another group of people who still support leave, but say it's not been done properly. And what we need is more Brexit, and not a watered-down Brexit. And Brexit's never been tried, and let's do it properly. And there's a great irony to me there, because that was the defence used by Leninists and Trotskyists to say, oh, people say communism didn't work, it's only because we haven't done it properly. To me, Brexit has been a failure, but it's happened. And we just have to make the best of it and grow from where we are. But the economy is smaller.
OK, well, a lot of people don't necessarily judge better off by just money, but...
Well, I mean, that's utter tripe. I'm afraid Peter accused me of shouting him in the first half of this programme. I may yet shout at him. That was... The OBR came out with that prediction, by the way, a prediction on which they put no time limit. Back in 2021, when we were still basically locked down, they said, as a result of Brexit, the economy would shrink by 4%. No one knows when that 4% shrinkage was due to take place. But on the single most important parameter, which is the trade between the United Kingdom and Europe, actually in 2022, which is the first full year of trade unaffected by lockdown since we left the EU, trade with Europe was up 13%. 13% increase in British exports to the EU and a similar increase in imports. As a result, we ran exactly the same deficit that we've pretty much always run with the EU before we exited. It made not a darn bit of difference to trade. And some of that increase may have been inflation, but the complexion of the trade was the same as before we left the EU. So the notion that our economy is going to shrink as a result of Brexit is a false one. But what we haven't done as a country is take advantage of all the opportunities Brexit would have given us. If we'd done that, we wouldn't have the trade deficit with the EU that we still have. If we'd actually properly broken those apron strings, instead of tying ourselves in knots over a trade and cooperation agreement that establishes a level playing field on state aid, competition, employment, and crucially environmental laws, where we've hamstrung with regulations and extra costs in the UK, if we hadn't done that, we'd be able to deregulate, we'd be able to cut taxes, we'd be able to make the United Kingdom an independent, nimble, trading country, which is where its history and heritage is, and which is where we need to return. We need to promote British interests ahead of international ones. And I'm afraid Brexit hasn't been done properly, and we know that because Northern Ireland...
I was just about to ask you, what about Northern Ireland?
Because Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom, has been left behind. Until Northern Ireland is reunited with Great Britain, no one can claim Brexit's been done.
But that's the problem, isn't it? How are they going to do that?
It's easy as pie, Nana. What we need is political will to tell those who would threaten the United Kingdom with violence if we don't put the border where it should be, which is between the Republic and Northern Ireland, which is where the Good Friday Agreement recognises the border to be, where every international institution recognises the border to be. If we don't have the courage to put customs controls there, which is where they should be, then of course we can't get over this. But all it requires is a bit of political will in our leaders.
But you're saying a physical border between Southern and Northern Ireland?
No, it has to be no more physical than the border between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which seems to be acceptable to our political class. So why can't we do the same legitimately on the island of Ireland?
Peter?
Well, if it was that easy, I've got great...
It is that easy. It is that easy.
He said it's easy.
Chill out.
No, don't do that.
If it was that easy, then why would it have kind of shuffled beyond the grasp with the 5 prime ministers we've had?
Well, you haven't
Britain
answered
went
the
to
question.
polls?
You're answering it with a question, so give a bit more than that.
I don't think it is that easy. I completely accept it's an incredibly knotty problem.
It's
and
not.
I think people in Northern Ireland are suffering economically as a result. From what I've read and just bits and bobs from think tanks, it seems to be, if there's any way we can make trade mainland to Northern Ireland, then Northern Ireland to EU easier and harmonised, it seems like it's going to be technological solutions, because a classic complaint, you've had it on your show from small businesses, is I used to have 10 forms, now I have 100 forms for whatever I'm selling into Northern Ireland.